Alright, so today's vid, I'm going to talk about the big block Chevy and how much it costs to take it to the machine shop. So I put a video out earlier about what parts to use to stroke a 454 to a 505. So when I took the motor to the machine shop, they said the pistons are going to be a little bit too big for the type of horsepower and I'm going to be making and running high RPM. So instead of going with the 100 over piston, I went with the 60 over piston. So the brand piston I ended up going with was the Icon pistons, but there's two different type of Icon pistons. There's a forged Icon piston, which only the top half is forged, and then there's a little bit more expensive Icon pistons, which the whole thing is forged. Get y'all a closer look in a little bit, and then but the crank is still the same Eagle crank of 4250. Connecting rods, those are forged. Those are the same ones I have, but the only difference was 60 over pistons to make it a 496. Alright, let me get my receipt and tell y'all the price, how much it costs for me to take it to the machine shop and making it a short block. Did for it is, let's see, they set the deck height, balance the rods and pistons, honed the block. Oh, and I put ARP fasteners on it. They did the main bearings, rod bearings, freeze plugs, put the rear main seal, the one piece, and then they gapped the rings for boost also. But yeah, the total price was $4 grand for doing all. Oh, and they also cleaned my intake too. But the total price was $4,000 for all that. But yeah, let me get y'all a closer look at the pistons. Alright, but yeah, these are the flat top pistons right here. Depending what type of gasket, what size gasket I use, how thick it is, I should be able to put hopefully a 640 lift cam in here. I know a 620 lift cam will fit on here, but the reason I got flat top pistons because I wanted a lower compression for boost. So if you're gonna go from put a bigger crankshaft in here, go from a 4 to a 4.250. The block cleared that. They didn't have to machine it or make clearance for that 4.250 stroke to go on there. Now if you go with a 4.5 crank, you might have to do clearance, I'm not too sure, but with the 4.250 you don't have to make clearance for that to fit. And like I said, everything I used on here is forged. The rods are forged, pistons are forged, the crank is forged. The rods, I think the rods, it said it can handle like 1200, 1500 horsepower, something like that. I'm not really too sure how much horsepower these pistons can handle, but I heard like a lot of people running their motor to the max or 7,000 RPM. It could definitely handle that, but I'm not sure how much boost they'll handle. But if I add boost to it, when I add boost to it, it's not gonna be no more than 15 pounds of boost, but we'll find out and see. I probably should mention too that this is a Gen 5 big block Chevy. The Gen 5s were between 91 and 95, I think. If I'm wrong, you can correct me in the comments. But yeah, Gen 5 and Gen 6 big block Chevys are pretty much the same. The only difference between them was that the Gen 5 you can use a mechanical fuel pump, and the Gen 6 you couldn't. And also the Gen 6 had a little bit better cylinder heads, because the Gen 5, this one came with peanut port heads, which are the super small cylinder heads. But if you're going to use this motor to tow a lot, those cylinder heads are great for torque. But if you're making like high horsepower, using it for racing, whatever, those cylinder heads are horrible. And then the main studs I put in here were ARP, like I said earlier, but they were ARP main studs for a windage train because big block Chevys have windage problems. But I didn't know that Summit Racing makes an oil pan with the windage tray already in there. So just to let y'all know, if y'all building a big block Chevy, you could get the ARP studs for windage tray, but you really don't need to because the Summit Racing oil pan has a windage tray already built in there. Oh, and another reason I bought 100 over pistons was because I didn't think the cylinder walls would clean up this good, so I went ahead and bought 100 over pistons. But the machinist at the machine shop said usually big block Chevys clean up 20 over. I should have took a video before I took it to the machine shop because when I pulled the motor was seized up and it was just all rusted out, but they cleaned it up really, really good. The person who had it before me, they left the spark plugs out, and it's been sitting in the truck for years, and all the rain and everything got in the motor and just rusted it out. Other than that, that's pretty much it. I'll definitely be making another video about this, assembling it, and sit down and try to be in more depth about what I did to it, like what cylinder heads I used, camshaft, and all that good stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching.